The Mandela Effect is a phenomena that makes us question those memories we have of our past. Typically, it targets memories we have of pop culture, historical events, or mundane things, like the color of a logo or the appearance of a cartoon. The interesting thing about the Mandela Effect is that there are so many people that swear by these so-called false memories that it is often said that these effects are concrete proof that either our reality is constantly changing, parallel universes do exist, or that time travelers are making changes in the past that would affect our present. During the 90s, a film was released that narrates the adventures of Babe, an innocent orphan little pig that is bought by Mr. Huggett, a rancher. While on the farm, Babe discovers the cruel realities of life and its imminent destiny to serve as a dish for Christmas dinner. Babe the Valiant Pig broke records, and his popularity was so huge that they even made a sequel to the film. But over the years, people have noticed an inconsistency in the protagonist's appearance. Remembering the Valiant Pig, do you recall any details that stand out in its appearance? Maybe a haircut? Well, there's a hefty group of people who argue that Babe didn't have this shaggy cut he sports now. Yeah, Babe has a hairdo, a wig, a hair system, or maybe even bangs. This disturbed many people, because for many, this was their favorite movie growing up, and they are sure that Babe was bald. What do you remember? Was Babe always bald, or in this reality, he paid a trip to Turkey for a hair transplant? We all know Shrek, right? When you have his outfit in mind, you probably think white shirt, vest, and brown pants. Simple, huh? Not so fast. It turns out that Shrek's pants are now checkered, and despite being predominantly brown, they actually have green with a hint of orange. This raised questions on the Mandela Effect subreddit, many questioning whether this was always the case, or perhaps with higher resolutions on streaming services, this was added to the film. But apparently, it has always been like this: checkered pants. This Mandela Effect was very similar to Zero's from A Nightmare Before Christmas, where his nose was never red like Rudolph the Reindeer's, but an orange pumpkin. As always, there are many examples where people drew Shrek with solid brown pants, and even dressed as him with this wrong depiction. Were you affected by this Mandela Effect where his pants were solid brown, or do you remember the checkered pants? Cinderella is another Disney tale that is now shrouded in the mystery of the Mandela Effect, but this time, it doesn't focus on the protagonist of the story. Now, it's on her stepsisters. If you know both the OG story and the Disney movie, tell me, what are Cinderella's stepsisters' names? If you answered Anastasia and Griselda, I'm sorry to tell you, but you were affected by the Mandela Effect. The names of her stepsisters in both the original tale and the Disney adaptation have always been Anastasia and Griselda. A subscriber of mine told me about this Mandela Effect, and at first I was like, nah, it must be a mistake, or perhaps a change in translation. Sometimes they do change names in different languages, but no. Apparently Anastasia and Griselda have always been their names. There are even people on Facebook pages asking the same question, and likewise Anastasia and Griselda is their answer, proving that this Mandela Effect is alive and well. Disney's animated classics wouldn't be complete without the sword and the stone. In fact, it is a bit surprising how there hasn't even been a remake made out of it yet. But even more surprising is this Mandela Effect that has affected many. There is a small detail in the film today that has left hundreds questioning if it was always like that. And it's not really a small detail, it's a big inconsistency. The premise of this film is that there's a sword embedded in a stone, and only someone truly worth of being king can pull it out. The thing is, the sword was never embedded in a stone. It turns out that the sword is embedded in an anvil on top of a stone, which does not resemble the average stone that many remember. This generated a debate in forums, some of whom have always remembered this peculiar anvil. and others who clearly remember a natural stone on the ground. It is worth mentioning that the 1963 Disney film is loosely based on a novel based on the early years of King Arthur and his progress under the teachings of the wizard Merlin. There are numerous works of art that do show a sword directly stuck on a regular rock. And maybe that's where a lot of people base this solid memory. The thing is, many only saw the Disney film, and yet they do remember a natural stone. Some people brought up Zelda's sword. Others cited how the original tale says, "Who's pulled out this sword of this stone and anvil is rightwise king born." Still, people argue the anvil was never there. How do you remember the sword and the stone? Pixar's films never disappoint, and this time we travel to Radiator Springs, where the movie masterpiece Cars takes place. This Mandela Effect is somewhat strange, because if you know this movie, obviously you know Mater, the toe from Cars. Well, this Mandela Effect has been making its rounds recently, and it surrounds Mater's collar. When you think of him, what color code do you remember him sporting? Many people remember him entirely brown, basically the color of a rusty car. But the thing is that actually Mater has always had this bluish tint along his sides, which surprised many who remember him entirely brown. I'll be honest, I grew up watching the car movies, and I know a little bit of Mater's lore. From that, I'm positive that it's always been blue, because there are other young Mater scenes, and he was always blue. Still, maybe I just wasn't affected by this Mandela Effect in particular. In fact, this reminded me of Randall's tale from Monsters Inc. that today is also blue. Interesting how both Mandela Effects have these blue tones that people never noticed until recently. It's the year 2001, and a very popular film is released, Cats vs. Dogs. This film is funny, a mix between James Bond and Men in Black, but starring cats and dogs. The situation here is that I just revealed the Mandela Effect, and you probably didn't even notice. There are numerous web forums where both English and Spanish speaking people remember this movie named Cats vs. Dogs, when in reality, this has always been called simply Cats and Dogs. The same goes for Spanish, which is totally different from the Cats vs. Dogs that many remember. How do you remember the title of this film? In 2011, a film starring Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig was released, where two cowboys face a squad of aliens who want to take over the world. The movie Cowboys vs. Aliens was a box office success, except it was never called that. This Mandela Effect revolves around the film's title. Fans of this film have realized that today's title is simply Cowboys and Aliens. It was never the Cowboys vs. Aliens that many remember. You probably remember this famous song from its tune, right? Could you be so kind and tell me who sings it? You probably said Bob Marley, right? It turns out that this is a false memory that affects hundreds of people collectively. In fact, if you check YouTube and Google, the most popular searches are "Don't Worry, Be Happy" by Bob Marley. YouTube also shows that the second most famous video erroneously says that the artist of this song is Bob Marley. The singer was and has always been Bobby McFerrin. Diving a little more into this subject, since it is very common for famous artists to cover other songs, it turns out that this is also a rumor that has been pointed out as false. Don't Worry, Be Happy was never part of Bob Marley's repertoire, despite the huge number of people who remember the opposite. Imagine being Bobby McFerrin and having your one-hit wonder being attributed to another artist. Bob Marley wasn't even alive anymore when this song came out. Crazy, right? An alternative rock or punk band that shaped the 90s was Nirvana. And if you know about this band, the name Kurt Cobain is common knowledge to you. Well, this Mandela Effect is extremely strange. It turns out that after Kurt Cobain was gone, many people, and I mean thousands, have this vague memory of an iconic image of him wearing a fluffy pink sweater and his iconic white shades. kinda like this one. Everything gets a little murky when you realize that the picture is fake. And it was made by a Reddit user who wanted to show the memory he has of Kurt Cobain in this particular outfit. It gets convoluted when there is really no proof that this image ever existed, not even a video of a concert where Kurt Cobain wore this outfit. Things get even weirder when you realize that there are people who have recreated this outfit in honor of Kurt, when it never existed. The closest thing we have to this pink sweater is this animal print sweater. He did wear this though. Still, there are no records of him ever wearing the pink one. Do you remember the photo of Kurt Cobain in the pink sweater? During the 90s and the 2000s, there was an ad campaign that took over Hollywood. Got Milk was a campaign mainly focused on teens to promote healthy development by drinking none other than milk. Now, we're talking about every Hollywood big name appearing in these ads, sporting a milk mustache asking, "Got milk?" From Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Angelina Jolie, Elton John, Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, Kim Cattrall, Larry King, Jackie Chan. If you were someone in Hollywood, you were part of these ads. You might remember a famous ad featuring Avril Lavigne, where she appeared in a white wife beater top, loose dickies, studded belt, and her guitar. It turns out this picture never existed. There is a huge group of people that swear Avril was part of Got Milk. They even go as far as to saying they tore that ad from the magazines to put it on the cover of their school binders. The thing is that Avril was never part of this, and this photo never existed. This specific memory is quite disturbing. People from Reddit have tried their hardest to find this picture with no success. The thing is that in today's day and age, this is simply a massively shared false memory. Strange, don't you think? With 34 seasons and counting, The Simpsons is a world-renowned series. Anyone who knows Homer Simpson will tell you that they've heard the show's theme song. Now, in one part of this track, Lisa interrupts the song to do a solo with her saxophone, right? I want you to tell me, what is the color of Lisa's saxophone? All set? If you answered yellow or gold, like most saxophones out there, you'd be wrong. Well, partly. It turns out that recently people have become aware of how in The Simpsons original intro, Lisa strangely plays a blue saxophone, which is very odd since not many saxophones are that color. The same goes for any musical instrument in general, don't you think? Many people claim that her saxophone was always gold, and the weirdness continues. While Lisa features her saxophone within the episodes, it is in fact golden, not blue. However, in the new seasons with the new intro redesign, the saxophone's color also changes into a traditional golden saxophone that many recall. And I know what y'all will say. The Simpsons has had a lot of changes over the years, in cartoonists, animations, characters, etc. I agree. But it is interesting how there's still a huge number of people who have never ever noticed this peculiar blue saxophone from the old intro until now. How do you remember Lisa's saxophone? Was it always blue, or is it a tiny change that many of us are barely realizing? If you've seen the Annabelle movies, you're probably familiar with this being the real doll which the movie is based off of. And this isn't just any doll. Her name is Raggedy Ann doll, and she was created since 1915. She's world renowned. Many of you probably even play with her or got to see one in person. Here comes the Mandela Effect. A huge number of social media users claim that this doll used to have freckles. If you take a simple look at it, it does appear like it's missing something. The issue here is that she never had them. A simple search throughout the different versions of Raggedy Ann shows that, indeed, she has never had freckles. There is a pocket version called Lil Raggedy Ann, and that is the only version that has 3 freckles on each cheek. Still, the original version that is known for her blue dress has never had any traces of freckles. Ironically, many people who dress like her wear the famous freckles that never existed. How do you remember Raggedy Ann? With or without the freckles? A heroic moment captured for posterity. It was May 2011. Tampa-based baseball player Evan Longoria was being interviewed by a beautiful reporter during a casual practice. Suddenly, a ball flies directly towards the reporter. But thanks to Evan's incredible reflexes, he stops the ball in mere seconds. The video goes viral instantly. Today, it is speculated whether the video was really spontaneous or just a publicity stunt for Gillette. But really? What comes into question here is the reporter. Recently, a Mandela effect involving this damsel in distress has gone viral in TikTok, with over 1 million likes and people claiming that this reporter is not the same one they remember. Thousands of people claim that this reporter, instead of being a young woman of color with brunette locks, used to be a light-skinned blonde girl. In addition, many also specify that the original reporter wore either a red cap or scarf, and also that it was daytime in the original video. Those intricate details being repeated over and over again in the comments circulating this Mandela effect. It is important to note that there is a similar video involving a reporter with a hockey player, where under the same circumstances, the hockey player saves the reporter, who in this case is a light-skinned blonde woman. Are we confusing these two videos? Or not? If you like animals, you know the charismatic Steve Irwin. Steve was an iconic television personality who took us with him on his adventures throughout the animal world. Sadly, at the young age of 44, Steve moved on to a better life after an encounter with a wild stingray. Many of us remember the news. It was pretty much everywhere. There was even a leaked video of Steve Irwin where you could see the exact moment when he had that encounter and moved on to a better life, right? Well, apparently this is false. In reality, that footage never saw the light of day. This took me by surprise because, like thousands of other people, I vividly remember that video. I even recall how news channels played it. But apparently, in an interview with Steve's wife, she assured that the only copy of that video was destroyed, and thank God, it never got to see the light of day. She also claims that if any page ever alleged to having a video of that moment, that would be a fake. There are people online going as far as claiming that in the video, you could see the water turning red. I don't remember that, but I definitely remember the famous viral video of Steve that apparently never existed. And there you go, my friends. I found these Mandela effects amusing. Let me know down in the comments which one was your favorite. Also, if any left you shook. If you have any other Mandela effects you'd like to share, don't even think about it, just drop it in the comments. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this one. Also, leave a like and share the video. I would really appreciate that. You are a legend. Thank you for your time. Bye.